Welcome everyone. Another new episode today. I've got Jane Fulton on and we are talking about her new book, 30 Reasons to Swipe Left. If you've ever had a Tinder disaster, then you will absolutely relate to this. And we also cover off the bizarre subject of erotic bobies. So I hope you enjoy it and let me know your feedback. Again, just big thanks to Paul at Let Me Repair. They are the main sponsors of the podcast. Check them out on Instagram or letmerepair.co.uk. Thanks, guys. Jane, nice to have you here.
Nice to be on.
Right, so let's dive in. 30 Reasons to Swipe Left. I'm not going to lie, right? When I read this, it made me feel pretty normal as a guy. I get halfway through it and I'm like, do you know what? I'm fucking doing all right in life here. If this is the standard of what's out there, I'm comfortable.
You know, it's funny you say that because I've had a few of my friends' boyfriends phone up and they'll say, after reading your book, I actually feel like I'm the best boyfriend ever. So, you know, yeah, you're right. There's a lot of crazy stories in the book.
Yes, and I have several questions about what has happened in the book. How did it come about? How did it start in the first place?
So basically it was back in December 2018, so it was Christmas time. And me and my friends, we just have banter all the time. So they were basically taking the piss out of me for being on so many bad dates. And they kind of brought up some dates that I kind of totally forgot about. And I was like, oh my God, like I totally forgot about that story. I'll need to write it down so I can remember it. Yeah. It was literally that conversation. So I had 2 weeks off work and I thought, right, I'm going to write down all my stories. And there was so much content. So they're like, oh, why don't you blog about it? But that wasn't something that was interesting to me because I actually am not good at writing. You've got to be passionate about things like blogging and you've got to be regular with it as well. So I thought, no, that's not the route I want to do. So I just thought, I'm just going to write it and make it almost like a manuscript and keep it for myself. So, you know, when I'm an old lady, I'm like, oh, it was a bit of a wild one back then. So then I got an editor. And she actually said to me, she goes, there's so much content for a book. You need to go for it. So it was kind of her encouraging words and through friends as well. So I thought, right, I'll see what happens. And that's literally how it started. I couldn't believe how many crazy men I've met.
Well, that's the thing. It must be, see for you, when you obviously had to detail all that down and look back at it, was it kind of therapeutic in a way to kind of look back? Or was it just, wow, I was actually in that situation?
A bit of both. So some parts, so obviously in the book it's all about humour. That's what it was supposed to be about, to make people laugh. But there's been relationships that have been traumatic and I didn't want to obviously put them in the book. So when you're writing it, it's parts of it's therapeutic, really funny, but then in my head I know the real stories of other parts of the relationship. So you know, there was times where like I was crying writing the book. I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this because it's bringing back memories that I just totally closed off. I'm kind of like that person where I keep all my emotions to myself. I'm the positive one out of all my friends, so I never talk about my issues. So when I was writing it, getting the crying out actually helped because you're like, oh, I'm kind of getting closure on it. But yeah, as I say, the book was to be all the funny parts and, you know, people have shit relationships, but it's how you move forward from that.
100%. And how... I'm assuming from reading the book that your pals are aware of the book. How was the reaction when you said, I'm actually going to do this, put it out in public eye for everybody to read?
They were just like, you're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. They're like, that's embarrassing. Like, because like, I don't know how I get myself in these situations, but I guess like I'm a bit of a joker and when things in a date happen that's unexpected, I kind of go with it because I'm like, oh, I can't wait to tell the girls what's happened.
There's some like the one that is stuck in my head and I don't know why, right? Because there's so many bizarre situations. The guy who took you to the gig in the flat and it was just one... See, when I'm reading it, I'm like, this can't be right. This couldn't have happened. And you go to this gig and this person plays one song and it's like a string and folk just lose their shit and that's it.
It was so surreal. You're sitting there and I'm thinking, everyone is so into it. And I'm sitting there thinking, I need out of this room and you can't, there's no escape, you know, the door's shut and I've just got to go with it. So I'm kind of rocking back and forth with all the punters and like swaying with them. It was so weird.
I just couldn't imagine it. Honestly, it sounds mental. Has anybody contacted you regarding the book that feels they might be in the book?
So my sister and my mum and auntie, we all went out for afternoon tea, and my sister got a message from my ex-boyfriend. So he's in the introduction of the book, and he messaged saying, you know, I heard I'm in this book. Is this right? And obviously mentioned me saying, you know, he heard that I wrote a book.
Yeah.
Luckily, my sister knows that I'm crap at English, right? So she was just like, nah, there's no way. But she brought it up during afternoon tea, so in front of my mum and my auntie, who's like so religious.
Yeah.
And my heart was beating so fast, panicking, thinking, this is it. I've ruined it. I've ruined that. It's all going to come out.
Yeah.
But luckily, I just laughed it off. I was like, what? There's no way. And then my sister was like, yeah. I said to him, like, you're so crap at English. So that is absolutely not true. So I got away with that one. But, you know, like, I'm from a small town. So I feel like it's only going to be time where something's going to happen. Something's going to come out.
Are you prepared for it?
I feel like I'm going to deny it for a while. Deny.
Just deny and deflect. Didn't happen. Nothing to do with me. The thing that I was curious about, and when I'd put out you're coming on, and a few people had messaged me, was about the actual process of having that idea and turning it into a book, and obviously finding an editor and things like that, and how you get it to that stage from your mind. Was that an easy journey, or was it quite a difficult journey to go from start to finish?
Really difficult for me, because I don't know any authors. I had no one to kind of speak to that could give me some advice. Now I've met authors, and it's amazing. It's such a lovely community. Everyone's really supportive. I know you've had a few on the podcast before, and the girls are amazing. But when I first started out, obviously because it wasn't supposed to be a book, so when the editor kind of finished it all, she said, you know, you need to get people to read it now. Ideally people that are not friends, because they're going to give you, no matter what, positive feedback. They might give you some negative, but it's never going to be that harsh. So it's kind of finding people that you don't know, but then you're worried in case, what happens if they take my material? What happens if that, you know, they know somebody that's writing a similar book? So that's a hard one to do. And then when you find somebody, you've got to be patient, because they're taking their time out to read your book, give you feedback. But sometimes they can't read it within a week. They sometimes it'll take a month. So that's quite hard. And then once you get the feedback, you know, you're changing the script again, send it back to the editor. So there's quite a lot of proofreads. With my book, I really wanted illustrations in every chapter. So I got Kat from You're All Right.
Yeah, she's been on to me.
Amazing.
when I put up, I'd read it. She messaged me, she's like, oh, I see the bird that done all the artwork and all that for it. And I was like, I cannot escape you.
And you know, with Kat, she doesn't know how talented she is.
Amazing.
Unreal, isn't it? So she did amazing. She did all these illustrations, but then I found out it costs so much money to put illustrations in a book, right? So even my editor didn't know that. So we had to scrap a lot of the inside illustrations, and I'm just keeping that for social media. But and then you have to go for a formatter who like overlooks everything. So there's quite a lot in the process. But I think if I knew all this at the beginning, I'd be more prepared. But every time I thought I finished something new came up, and I was like, oh, like this is too much, because it's so out of my depth, out of my comfort zone. But now, like that I've done it all, and someone came to me, like I'd say totally go for it. Like I could give them as much advice. So that would be my thing, is like try and find somebody that has wrote a book and to give you as much knowledge as possible.
And is it hard for that, as you say, when you send it away to be proofread, and it does take 3-4 weeks, and you're sitting there not knowing what the reaction's going to be like? Is that a difficult journey? Yeah,
the waiting's hard, because there's nothing you can do in that time. Really hard. Writing the book itself wasn't that hard, because I'm basing it on all real life stories. So whereas other people that write fiction, like that's a lot harder. Obviously they come up with characters, a storyline. So with me, it's just, you know, I'm just going with real life experiences. But for me, like putting it together to make it enjoyable, injecting humor, finding out there's certain things you're not allowed to say. Like, I mean, I didn't know you're not allowed to say the word Eskimo. That's actually not acceptable word to put. You've got to put Inuit. Or
I never knew that either.
I didn't know that either. So, you know, there's so much I learned that you can't say. There's, you know, obviously in my book there's stuff about fetishes and things like that. And then I'm at one part slagging a fetish off, and my editor saying you can't do that, because like some people, that's their thing. They enjoy that, and who it's not your right to slag that off. So I've learned so much about, you know, what you should, you have your opinion, but you've also got to see from the other person's point of view as well.
And how long did it take, see, from initial, this is what I want to do, to publish date? What was your kind of time period?
So because mine wasn't supposed to be a book, it's difficult because it was December 2018, and then I got my first editor on it April 2019. It was kind of before lockdown happened, so I would say kind of, I don't know, I'd say like the kind of March, I was ready for it to go. But so my friend passed away, and it just totally like took it. I just didn't have the passion to put it out. There's so much going on with him, and I lost the kind of momentum, which obviously is natural. And then part of the book as well, I was writing to publishers, and I was so determined to get a publisher and not self-publish, because I was so out my depth. I didn't know what to do. So I thought, if I find a publisher, they're going to be able to push it and, you know, get your book in the store. And I got a few publishing deals, and it's crazy to think when you get your first deal, you're like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. But then you look at the contract and it might not work for you. So that's another thing, like, don't put your hopes up, because, you know, I was kind of told this, my editor as well, she goes, you might get some publishing deals, but you might not take them. And I'm, in my head, I'm like, of course I'm going to take them as a publishing deal. But when you look into the nitty gritty, you're like, actually, that's not going to work for me. So it took a lot for me to finally make a decision to self-publish, because I knew that I've got full control, and I was just like, oh, I don't think I can do this. I don't have the confidence. I'm not an anxious person in any way, but the month before it was published, I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, I was feeling sick.
Was that more down to how it would be received, or because it was your actual, these things happened to you? Because these things had happened to me, and I knew that that's it. People, even though I'm going under a pen name, like my friends are going to be reading it, they're going to tell their friends it's me, and it's just, oh, am I ready for people to know all the stuff that I've done? And I suppose did you have a point at any way through that where you had the fear and you're like, I don't know if I can go out with this, or were you always kind of
constantly have the fear, back and forth, and there was probably a period of 6 months where I just left it for, I had honestly messaged over 100 publishers, like literacy agencies, and I just thought, I'm just going to put it in their hands and wait and see if anything comes back. So there was like a period of 6 months where I just didn't do anything. I was just kind of hoping, maybe checking my emails every day, and that was a kind of safety net, because I thought that was an excuse to, when people would say to me, oh, when's your book out? Because a lot of people knew, friends that knew I was bringing it out, and I'd be like, oh, you know, I'm just waiting to see if any publishers get back. But it was almost just an excuse, because I didn't want that, I didn't want to get to the point where I had to self-publish, and then it's like, oh, it's real now. And it's out there. And I suppose when it does get released, how are you feeling at that point? Because it's out there, and obviously on your Insta page, the followers are growing, people are asking you about it. Are you in a better zone at that point, or are you still nervous? When I started getting reviews, that's when I finally felt happy and didn't have the fear. Because, you know, reviews are everything, and feedback is everything. I'd say the first week I didn't even look at anything. I didn't want to do anything. I kind of pushed myself into work, because I was like, I just don't want to look at the book, and I can't think about it. To be honest, I've still not actually read the book since it's been actually printed. Because I'm worried in case I see something like a spelling mistake, and I'm like, no, oh my God, I can't cope with that. So I've not actually read it since it's been printed.
Wow.
Can't do it. Can't even look at the sales. Can't do it. So maybe one day.
That's amazing. And I've got to ask, obviously from reading through it, and there is obviously a few different incidents that's happened, and it was a question that came in from so many people. What are the ones from your mind that kind of stick out for you? What are the ones that are kind of, I mean, most of them will be ingrained in your mind forever, but what are the ones that you're just like, wow?
Obviously I can't talk about anything rude on here. I don't want to do that. So I would say, to be the one that's just crazy that just happened to me was the cat funeral. First date, meeting a guy in a park, and quite really excited because it was very spontaneous. Like, I met him in the bar like the week before, and then he just randomly called me up saying, let's go meet in the park, go for a walk. And I thought that's really, really nice. I like the spontaneity. And then walking around the park, he's being suspicious. He's constantly looking at his phone. His phone's ringing all the time. And you just get this gut instinct, something's not right here.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is, but I don't feel comfortable being in this situation. And then I politely say, you know, we can do this another time. I know you're busy on your phone. Like, if you need to do something, that's absolutely fine. Just trying to be polite in case this guy turns out to be crazy.
Yeah.
And then he blurts out, you know, my sister's here. Or, my cat died last night and we need to bury the cat. I want you here for support. And I'm like, what the hell is this is when you question life. I'm like, if I done something in my past life where...
I would be waiting on video cameras, jumping out behind a tree.
That's exactly what it was. Like, I was like, I'm getting out of here, and I'm walking out the park, and I'm thinking, is my friends set me up because they know I've been in so many shit dates? Is this them setting me up? And sure enough, look up the guy's Facebook, and poor wee Jack is, you know, no longer here. Rest in peace, Jack. So Jack is in the box, well and truly.
It's bizarre, but it's that whole kind of as if, I'd just be all right with that on a first date.
How does he even think that's, you know, normal? But I swear, in hindsight, I'm like, I wish I went. I wish I just went and seen what would happen. Because that'd be an even better story.
Did his sister say anything to you?
Well, at that point, I didn't meet her because he was on the phone to her, and she was like one part of the park, and we were heading towards that area. I could hear her screaming down the phone, screaming at him, saying like, "Where are you? Where are you? I'm here." So that's probably one of my regrets, not attending Jack's funeral. Can you imagine how amazing that chapter would be if I actually attended?
I just, like, it was 100%, right? When I started reading it, obviously I've never read a book about dating or anything like that, so like, I don't really know what to expect. But when I read that story, I was like, how does that happen? Like, how do you go on a first date with somebody and they go, by the way, it's my cat's funeral, thought I'd invite you along? That must be like just open the ground up. It's
just unreal. You think, because I'm like, has anyone else experienced something so crazy? But yeah, you get them. You absolutely get them. So
have you had, see, since you've brought the book out and you've got your page, etc., do you get people messaging you with their kind of disaster stories?
So many, and I love it. I love nothing more than reading other people's dating disasters because it makes me feel normal. I'm like, not just me. So my dating Instagram page, Swipe Forever After, I love it because it's like gossip, dating gossip. People message me, give me their stories, and then I make it anonymous. So I put their dating story once a week as well as other content. And it's just a platform for people to laugh and just, you know, just have fun with it and almost be shocked with it as well. Like, I've got friends in relationships and they're like, oh, I'm so glad I'm in a relationship. Yeah. They get the fear of ever being single because they're like, especially since lockdown, I feel like the way to date people now is through online because it's not as if you can go to the bar and meet, like, chat to somebody at the bar. We've not got, kind of, nightclubs are not back yet, but you know, all the ways you would normally meet somebody, you can't really do that now, especially, you know, we've still got masks on, even at the gym, everyone's social distance, so online kind of is the way at the moment to go.
And see, from your point of view, even after all the disasters that you've had, would you still use the apps, etc.? Did it put you off at all?
No, not at all, because I've met people online that are amazing. They've not been in the book because obviously there's no disasters, but we didn't work out because of either like logistics of location or whatever the reason was. So I have met amazing people, people that are actually like I would call friends now, you know, still stay in touch. But yeah, it's not to be, online is not scary, but you just have to be careful and just you'll notice the red flags. I just like, I'm different because I'm like, I kind of push it. I'm like, oh, like, I want to see what happens here. I'm a bit of a risk taker. I'm like, oh, there's something not going on. I need to find out what it is. I'm so nosy. So I'm like Isa from Still Game. I'm so nosy. And I love to know about people's lives. And then if something weird goes on, I'm like, oh, I love this. This is great. It's a good story for the girls.
What's your kind of main red flags when you are looking at someone online? What are the bits that you look at and you're like, something's not right there?
Yeah, I would say if someone's just kind of overconfident. Their pictures as well. If their pictures are, I mean, you don't want to match somebody that's got their top off in every picture, because that's just showing that they're overconfident. Right, I've not got an issue with height, right? But if you see a picture with a guy on his own, with no mates in any picture, normally that's a sign that they're small in height. And they always seem to lie. I mean, obviously that's one of the stories in my book. Like, I met up with somebody that was a lot smaller than me. So yeah, looking at the pictures, you can tell a lot from pictures. Even if there's one picture, you're like, you're a boring bastard. Like, one picture, that's all you can tell. Because you're just like, all the effort, there's no effort there, just one picture. You must, like, come on, put some effort into it. Same with the bio, you can tell a lot. Like, if someone put loads of sexual innuendos, you're like, okay, that person just wants sex. Which is fine if you want that. If you want to go online for sex, that's absolutely fine. But if you're actually looking for a relationship, you know, you don't want to be like matching with somebody with sexual innuendos. So yeah, there's loads of red flags, but it's not until you meet them in person and you can really kind of gauge and get that gut instinct.
How can, like, see the one you were saying with the guy that was smaller? See, when you get there and obviously the realisation drops in, how do you hide it? Do you just kind of think, fuck it, I'm here now, let's just go on with it and see what happens?
I mean, that one thing I would never do is make an excuse in a date and run away. I just think it must be so hard for the other person. They feel so like self-conscious. So I just go with it. And then, but this guy was so, I mean, I had heels on. I love wearing heels. And then, you know, he was like, I think he was like 5'4" with heels on. I'm like 5'8". So I almost felt like it was my wee brother. So you can't, I kind of almost instantly didn't feel attracted at all. I was like,
the ideal date scenario, is it?
All right, pal, how you doing?
And do you think he noticed it right away, or do you think he was kind of completely oblivious?
No, I think he doesn't talk about his height because he wouldn't get many dates. I mean, the thing is, height is not an issue because there's so many girls that are smaller in height and they're happy with any height. But when you hide it, just be honest. That's the thing. Be honest and just say what you are in your bio, because you're going to get found out eventually. You know.
Well, I suppose you get the ones as well. Somebody had messaged me on Instagram. You know, like, ask her if she'd had experience of the guys who put a picture of himself with 4 good-looking pals and you don't know what one is them, and you're kind of looking at it and you're like, this is a gamble here.
Yeah, definitely had that. And then it turns out to always be the ugly one and you're like, is your pal single though? I mean, that's just you should never do that, because if you've got pals that are way better looking, like,
you're going to get caught by the time the date comes anyway. You can't take the 4 of them with you and just kind of sit and go, oh, guess.
And you're desperate to say to them, oh, but is your pal, like, your pal's so good looking, is he single? But no, so there's a lot. I've got guy mates that are online and I'm like, let me have a look at your, because they'll say, oh, I've not got any matches. Like, let me have a look at your profile. You can just make a few tweaks and it totally changes. Totally changes. You're always best to get someone to look at your profile, because what you think is your best picture might be like your friend might look and think that's a bit too much, you know, you're posing too much or whatever. A lot of my guy mates say that girls use a lot of filter. So when they do turn up, they don't look the same. So but I guess again it's confidence, isn't it? A lot of people are not confident, so they're trying their best to use filters to make them stand out, but inevitably when you're going to meet up, what's the point? Yeah,
I suppose, but it maybe goes back to kind of the world we live in and kind of social media pressure and things like that as well, because people will want to make themselves look a certain way because they think nobody will pick me or message me whatever if I look like this, so I'll do this, not realising what's going to come back round to you. I know. Anyway.
There's a dating word called stashing, right? And it's basically you go out on dates for free food. Bloody genius. I wish I had the balls to do that. So it's girls that literally go on dates often just to get a free dinner. No intention of going in a relationship or anything. Just want a free dinner. I'm like, I like that. That's great. Good on them. High five to that.
I don't know if I could.
To have the balls to do that.
I don't know if I could. Where do you stand on, and I know you touch on the book, if it's a first date with the whole bill situation? Because obviously from reading it, you've had some shockers, like a £20 chicken satay stick.
I'm so mad.
To different situations, but what would the
etiquette be?
Yeah, what would you expect?
Yeah, I think whoever's asking, I think, you know, everyone wants a gentleman.
Yeah.
So it is nice, especially for the first date, for the guy to pay. But always, I want to pay my way. I'm not one of these girls that want somebody to constantly pay for me. So I would always make it an effort. First date, like, all right, well, I'll get the drinks then. If you're getting dinner, I'll get the drinks. Or if we're going on another date, I'll be like, let me get this. And, you know, speaking to my guy mates, that can be a total turn off if a girl doesn't even offer. They like the fact that she's not offered. They're quite happy to pay, but they're like, if they're not even offered, that's just a turn off. So yeah, I think, I mean, that's why I think for first dates, don't do anything too expensive, you know, like even make it like just a coffee or going for a walk, because when it comes to like, if you're going out for a meal first date, it's just, it can be pricey, and it does get awkward when they come over the bill and you're like, oh, this is the most awkward part.
Yeah, that would kill me.
Yeah.
Like that whole kind of guessing game of, and I think your average guy, without speaking at a ton, I think would probably pay. Or if it's a first date, or if you've not had any sort of conversation. But if they're not, and there's that whole chat about, are we splitting it, or if they say, are you paying, I would die.
Or
in
like
that room.
in my situation where the guy's like, get the tab. and then,
Would you even say at that point?
So I'm a total people pleaser, and well, not like, I'm better now, but back then when the guy like just racked up a bill, then he went to the toilet, like, do you want to get the tab? And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so uncomfortable. And then he said, you know, it's like, I don't actually have money, like I don't get paid. And I'm like, why are you going on a date? Like because I obviously travelled to Edinburgh to see him, and you know, I'm working out like and travelling there, like so that was shocking. But it makes me think that, I mean, he's maybe a type of stasher, likes to go and drink, go on dates and get as much drinks from girls. Maybe that's him, that's his thing.
I don't know how people get the balls to do that.
I know.
Like,
but see, now like I'm more confident now. This is when I was in my 20s, and you know, I wasn't confident in my 20s. I was just kind of a total people pleaser. And then now I'm like, I don't know if it's an age thing. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I would just say like, nah, that's unacceptable. So,
would you just call it out on the date?
Totally. I say, you know, like, this is a date, like, that's really ungentlemanly, or
I just can't get my head around someone arranging a date, going through everything, spending everything, and then saying, I don't have any money. What would you have done if you didn't have any money at that point?
I know, that's the thing. I know. I mean, it was his local bar as well, so I don't know, like, I don't know if they were in something, or I don't know, it baffles me. Because I could have just said, you know, if you're in here all the time, you can just square up another time then. But at that point, you're shocked. You kind of don't know what to think. And it's not until you're like, later on, you're like, I should have said this, I should have said that. But anyway,
I would have died.
At least he made a chapter in my book, so that's good.
Yeah, that's it. And I'm curious as to whether MD, maybe obviously they've no message that, or MD's reading it going, fucking hell, that sounds like me. But they're obviously not going to say it, because if you're that guy, you're not going to say to your pals, well, by the way, that was me.
I know.
But there must be a few of them that's like, I think that's me. Because
it's hard for me to market the book, because obviously I'm under a pen name. Yeah. So it's not as if I can promote it on my personal Instagram and Facebook and things. So like, I'm often, when I do put it on my personal, I'm putting like, oh, my pal wrote a book. And sometimes when I look at like who's looking at it, there is like people that are in the book looking at the story.
Oh man.
And I always wonder, like, do you think they know it's me? Because but you know, they should read about themselves and see how unacceptable they've been.
Well, I suppose maybe some of them have read it and thought, shit, I better change.
Yeah.
And that would be the good thing that came out of it.
Yeah, there we are.
But you may also get the DMs of like, by the way, that was me. I had a shocker there. Thanks for putting it out in the fucking public eye now for everybody to read.
I know.
Oh man. A question that I had, and I was just curious because you were talking about that whole journey from you keeping the kind of journals and going through the editing stage and the actual publication. What was the biggest learning you took from it all? The whole kind of journey?
I'd say the biggest learning is that you can do it. If you put your mind to something, you can do it. Like, I had no confidence when my editor says make it into a book. I'm like, I failed higher English twice and did worse the second time round. Yeah. I've never been good at English. I don't know what it is. Like, I did well at school, but for English, I just couldn't grasp it. I got bored so easily. I was a total daydreamer at school. And I've been working since I was 11, so I think I was tired at school.
Yeah.
So I used to be like a Highland dancer, right?
Right.
So I would literally go to school, and after school, I'd be going to dance classes, and then I'd be dancing at hotels doing Highland dancing. So I was exhausted. And I'd be like in the car doing homework, like on the way to the hotel. In English, I just found it a boring subject. And I need something to excite me. And I just never like did well in English. And in classes, I could do exams in classes, but see when it was the kind of prelims and the hires, I'd get the exam paper and I'd just go blank. And I don't know what it was. I just like, I didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
And if I did write something, it wasn't long enough. And then you've got your dictionary in front of you, and I'm like, right, what words can I add to expand this essay? Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
You're looking at the thesaurus, and you're like, that word sounds good, don't know if it makes sense,
It's
shove it in.
You get people that do it with job interviews as well, and they just freeze. They can talk a brilliant game up to that point, and then nothing.
So that was with me in English. I'd be at the exam and I just completely daydream, and then before you know it, I'm like, oh my god, it's almost over. I've not wrote anything.
Yeah.
And then even when I failed the second time, right, because I thought I was quite cocky, I thought I'm going to definitely get it a second time, because I got like an intermediate to A, right? So I got an A at intermediate 2, so I thought, I'll easily get the higher the next time. Never got it. I was like, bloody hell, I'm shite. So I went to an English tutor.
Right.
And then again, the same thing with her. I was just like, do you know what? I'm giving this up. I can't. I just have to like accept that this is not for me. I can't do the English exam. So, so I guess going back to your question, like I'm kind of proud of myself because I'm like, I managed to get something out, and even though I never got my higher, I've got a book. Yeah. So, the whole process difficult, but I'm happy now. Yeah. Like I'm just like, I feel like I've achieved something amazing that I never imagined I'd ever do.
100%. And a question that has come in quite frequently is there going to be another one?
There is so much content. You will not believe this, right? So I had enough content. I had loads of content that I wanted for this book. It was my editor that said, keep that aside. Yep. You've got plenty of content for book 2. So I do have more content, and I've been on dates since this book's been out. They're unbelievable. And I'm like, how is this still happening? So I'm very excited to add another book. I just can't believe like some stuff are still happening. So
now, conveniently, someone had actually asked, can you ask the question if there has been any recent dating disasters that haven't made the book? So from your experiences after obviously writing this, have you had any other major disasters?
So there's another cat situation. Me and my cats. Oh God, this is kind of crude. I don't know how I'm allowed to say this, but
you could knock yourself out.
Okay,
Go for it.
So I'm an actress,
right,
as well. So I do a lot of role play for doctors and any medical students. So my script for the day was a scenario. And basically, I had lots of problems there in my vagina. Very smelly, discharged, like anything that just sounds rank. Yeah, that's what I had to talk about. Okay. So basically, I've got an examiner next to me who's examining the student doctors that are coming in. So they sit down, like, how can I help you? And I'm like, I'm really smelly down there, blah, blah. And the guy next to me is really cute, the examiner. So I'm mortified because I can whip it out, no bother, like with the scenarios, but see when it's someone good looking, you're like, oh, this is so cringy. Because you're thinking, I hope he doesn't think this is mine. So anyway, this examiner ended up asking me out after all the stuff I'm talking about, right? I'm like talking about heavy flow and everything. And he asked me out. So I met up with him a few times. He looked better with the mask on, not off, right? Which I find is quite common with people going on dates now. They see people like wherever they are, and their mask is on, they take it off, and they're like, oh, this isn't, put it back on. So anyway, I kind of thought the first date didn't really go well because he made a booking and it turned out it was fully booked. Like they got the booking wrong, so we ended up just meeting up with his pals for the first date. Right. So I didn't feel like I got to know him. So second day, I went to meet him outside his, and he's like, do you want to, I just need to take my cat a walk. I was like, what? A walk? Right. I was like, what? You're not going to just let it out? He's like, oh, no, like I take my cat a walk.
Right.
I was like, what? So we got up to his flat and he has a pink lead for his cat.
Brilliant.
And we went for a walk. I was mortified, but in my head I'm like, this is good content. We went for a walk around the West End with his cat on a pink lead. And I don't know if it's a West End thing, but I was like, this is... I mean, have you seen a cat on a lead before?
No.
How weird
I've
seen
a rabbit on a lead randomly,
What?
but that was in Botanic Gardens as well, funnily enough, so it might be the same guy.
Maybe it's a West End thing.
That's
I don't know. And I was mortified, but I just kept thinking, go with it, because this is great content. But he wasn't fazed by it. It was a normal thing, just to take your cat on a walk. But more things happened that day, but obviously I don't want to say too much because, you know, got to keep it for the book too.
I mean, at least it wasn't burying the cat. I suppose there's that kind of progress there. That is insane. Honestly. Do you ever just go in these things and be like, what have I done in a previous life? What has happened
all the time.
Here?
I know. Crazy.
Your pals must be like, what are you doing on Tinder?
But
Like,
I've got a boyfriend now. Crazy.
Crazy. That's what somebody else wanted to know. When I had put up to say, oh, is there any questions for Jane? I think there was 6 messages. It was like, is she single? And I'm like, I don't want to ask that question.
Well, I mean, I tried to put the guy off. So I know this guy from school, and he was my school crush.
Right.
This is so geeky. We were in the orchestra together.
Right.
And I was so embarrassed. I was so that's another thing, right? So I was shit at the violin, but I did advanced higher music, and you had to have a second instrument or you had to sing. And I can sing, but I was too embarrassed at that age to sing in front of the teacher in the class. So I was like, oh, just do another instrument. And because I can play piano, the violin's kind of like, and same, I can read music. So they were like encouraging me, just do the violin, you'll pick it up. And my teacher's like, just go to the orchestra and that'll help your playing. Yeah. And I faked being in the orchestra for a year. I faked playing. Everyone was too fast. So I literally would watch people and how their bow was. Right. So if it was up, I'd go up, and I was literally not even touching the strings, faking it for a full year.
Nobody noticed?
Nobody noticed. And I remember he was in the orchestra, and I was like, oh, he's really good looking. But I was obviously mortified at that age. But he randomly messaged me, and on our first date, we did a blind date thing. Right. So it's like you eat your food in the dark. Right. So it's blind eating. So you have a mask over your eyes, can't even see each other on a first date. But he was he was, I've told him this already, but he was too keen on me. Right. So I tried to put him off. So I was just like, by the way, I've got a book about my dating disasters. You should read it. Because that was one thing, another reason why I wanted a pen name, because of future dates. I didn't want anyone to know and feel like I was almost like interviewing them or trying to get content for a book. So I was encouraging them. So I was like, go and read it and let me know what you think, hoping it put them off. Yeah. Told them that I made erotic art for a living as well, thinking that's definitely going to put him off.
Why did you want to put him off at that? But just because he was too keen?
Too keen, and which is, and do you know what, he wasn't. See, when I look back, it's because I've been dating people that are just, I don't know, I've dated guys that are not really very nice or guys that don't really compliment you. So I've went from like one extreme to the other. I went from people that don't really care to someone that's just like, you know, really interested and complimenting me, whereas, and that to me was too much, but it wasn't. It's just like obviously going from nothing to that. So he read the book and he's like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, you've been in horrible dates. I promise I'll treat you like really well and stuff. And he didn't care about the erotic art either, the fact that I make willies.
Yeah, we'll be coming back to that.
So he's a keeper. So, and that's it. It's, you know, it's only been 6 weeks, but I guess because we know each other from school, you know, it's developing a lot faster than what it normally would.
And did you think the book would put him off?
Totally. Couldn't believe he was just like, and like, it's an open book, so he knows everything about me, and he has nothing. Like he's had normal relationships, long-term relationships. Yeah. And then I'm like, I'm a mess, I'm crazy. He's like, no, it's good. He's like, you've wrote a book, that's amazing. And then he's just like, you just had bad luck. I'm like, what? Yeah. Over 30 bad luck dates.
But then I suppose he's reading it going, I'm in a good space here.
Yeah. Like, anything.
I'm not the cat guy, I'm in a good zone.
And you know what? Because I put tips on, so each chapter ends with tips, like humorous tips. Yeah. sometimes I think, is he looked at those tips and thinking, right, I can't do this, can't do that, because he's so perfect. I'm thinking, is he just making sure he doesn't slip up, so he's following the book? So maybe every girl or everyone that wants a relationship should write a book and then give it to the person.
Like a manual?
A manual.
Yeah.
There you are, so.
Nice. Nice. Well, if you get married, just say it was in the book. It's the book that done it. The book started it off. And you've touched on it there, and I never thought I would utter these words. So you make willies, right?
I make willies.
Tell me how this came about.
I make bobies. So basically, I've got an event company, so I organise parties for mainly hen and stags. So I was part of an entrepreneur program, and it was basically helping small businesses develop and progress. And they were like, you need a USP. They're like, every activity you do, every other company does the same. So I went out to do some research. I was going to like wedding fairs, asking bride-to-bees and other girls there, bridesmaids and maid of honours, like, what do you want to see at a hen party? And everyone's just like, as long as there's willy straws, like, like want butlers in the buff. So everyone just kind of kept talking about like nakedness and men. I was like, okay, there's something there. And the fact that they keep talking about willies, and I thought, I wonder if I can maybe do like willy candles. But I just thought that's quite a boring activity for people, just making a candle. And then I thought about kind of chocolate shaped willies. And again, I thought you need a kitchen, you need a license. So it just kind of dawned on me, like, why don't I just make like an ornament, and then they can paint it and decorate it. And that's how it started. And I was mortified because it was RBS that was the entrepreneur program, so they kind of sponsored it all. So we were in the offices and we had to do pitches every week and stand up and do a pitch about our business, and it's all corporate, corporate environment. And then I'm speaking to my mentor saying, I found an activity, it's doing really well. But if it's because Glasgow Live and a few newspapers published an article on it, and from there it really took off because people were like, what, this is hilarious, like painting willies. So I spoke to my mentor. I was like, I've came up with a USP and it's working really well. And she goes, okay, you need to do a pitch about it. So I remember doing a pitch in front of everyone there, and I was just mortified. But you know what? People laugh because it was different, and it kind of shook up the environment because everyone's like, it's such a professional environment, and then people hear me like, all right, so I paint and decorate willies for hen parties, and then everyone's obviously laughing, and then it kind of like breaks the ice. But it's not like. I used to be really embarrassed about it, and the day my mum found out, when I was living at home, she came home from work during lunch. She wasn't supposed to be back. Walked in my room and there was willies everywhere. So I basically once they're all made, I kind of set them aside, let them kind of set, and then I would put them away, hide them. And she walked in, there was willies everywhere. My mum's religious, and she was just like. She didn't even say anything. She closed the door, and I heard the front door go, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And she says, she goes, this is embarrassing, this is humiliating. And then it wasn't until she got drunk at Christmas time, and my auntie was saying to her, she goes like this, she's doing really well with it. Like her classes are selling out every single weekend. She's making money. She's not just doing this, she's doing other things. And then my mum was just like, I think it's actually really good. So she's warmed to it.
Can I imagine what went through her mind that initial first day?
I know, she's like, what the hell? I know. But obviously with the book, it's got sex in it. So that's more embarrassing because it's like, you don't want your daughter, like, knowing that your daughter's done weird fetish 100%. Stuff.
It's a wee bit different to walking in a room and you've made all these willies rather than reading it and going, know what I want to know.
That's it. I got a friend, she's an artist, and she painted a Donald Trump bobby, right? And honestly, it went viral and it was amazing. So things like that, it's like thinking out the box. I think that's with any business, that you've got to just think of something that no one else is doing, and it sparks an interest.
100%.
People like doing something that's new and different.
That's unreal.
So I bet you didn't know you'd be talking about bobies.
I didn't even know there was such a thing as bobby art. But there we go. That's my new thing for the day. Randomly enough, someone else had asked, and we were talking about at the start of this, sometimes you don't think of things when you're not looking at it, but with the book and all that, would you do your own kind of dating podcast? I'm fucking plugging another podcast here, but
actually it's in the makings just now.
Right. So
I'm a dating columnist for the Glasgow Girls Club. So I know you're going to be getting Laura on soon. She's amazing. So me and this dating coach, Jade Birkin, we do a column for Glasgow Girls Club. So we have been speaking about a podcast. I'm not even kidding on for about a year.
Right.
But our schedules are just crazy. I mean, I do so many jobs. Like I wake up at 6 every morning and I probably finish work at 9 o'clock at night because I'm doing my business. I'm an actress as well. So, you know, sometimes my agent will call me up and like, you need to do a self-tape tonight. So I'm up all night, like learning scripts and things like that. So I've got the craziest work life and it's quite stressful as well because I'm like, I want that time where I can spend with friends and obviously I've got a boyfriend now.
Need to make some time.
Gotta make some time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's starting to change now. I think with lockdown, it makes you realise, you know, what's important and you've got to make time because you'll burn out, completely burn out. But yeah, that is the plan to do. We've got it all kind of scheduled what we want, who we want on and what we're going to speak about. So yeah, hopefully coming soon.
Nice. Brilliant.
There we are.
Got a studio here as well.
I know, actually, that's a good shout. There we are.
Aye. Bring the Willie in as
Get
well.
the Willies in.
bit of Willie art. Something that I wanted to know, and you touched on it in the book, you touched on it when we were talking about it, that when you were first starting to date, you were quite naive about it and you'd went into it kind of a little bit unaware. If you were to go back and tell yourself at the start of this journey, kind of based on what you know now and what you've experienced, what would you tell yourself at that age?
I would say to speak up and don't feel like you have to like what other people like. I feel like in relationships, I was wanting to be liked so much that I would, you know, almost pretend I liked what the kind of foods they liked or liked the music they liked and didn't own what I liked. Yeah. Always going with their suggestions but you know, kind of in your 20s, it is a difficult time. You're still kind of finding yourself, aren't you? So I just feel like I would just say, you know, just be more confident. And if something's not right, if you don't want to do something, don't do it. You know, don't just go along with it to make someone happy. Your happiness is the most important thing. So, and that's why it was hard writing certain chapters because I'm like, I'm almost like shouting at myself. I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I let that happen? And but you know, life's a lesson, isn't it? You know, I guess I wouldn't have this book if all those like situations didn't happen. So you've got to think of the positive. You know, there's things that you that wasn't nice, but you think, you know, you just got to think of the positive in each situation. Yeah,
it's a process, isn't it?
Have you had a dating disaster?
No, do you know, I've actually not.
Oh, you're so lucky.
No, I've not.
I bet there'll be so many people though that you know that have.
Oh, like honestly, some of the questions that my pal sent in or experiences, I was like, I'm not saying that. Like, they've been sitting typing for 20 minutes. I'm like, I'm not saying this, so just stop. Just stop what you're doing and delete it.
I've got people that send me messages on my dating Instagram and I'm like, I can't put that out there because it's too crude. And I'm
from
like,
folk you know or just general?
No, just general people that follow. And I'm like, I mean, I thought mine were bad and then I hear theirs and but it's to another level. And I'm like, I'm shocked by that. I don't really get shocked by much, but when they message, some of the messages, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, it's just a bit too much of the pod, or sorry for the page, or I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll get round to it, I'll definitely post it. But it's shocking when you hear some stories.
Wild. I knew as soon as I put on you were coming on, I just felt my phone like fucking and I was like, I'm not even looking. One of my pals actually said, he's like, what advice would you give to a guy for setting up his Tinder like profile? Because obviously you touch on that in your book as well, but and I know we spoke about pictures earlier, but what would you say to someone who's setting it up? What are the kind of do's and don'ts? Okay, for do's, I would say try and inject some humour because you want people to know that you've got a funny side to you. With pictures, make them recent. Don't you? Everyone has like old pictures, but it's just like it's not going to do you any favours. And maybe you could be like being a bit cheeky is funny, but just don't put like any of the sexual innuendos. You know, the pictures that sell well, pictures with dogs. Yeah, but is everyone, it your dog?
I know, but that's what happened. Again, another thing that happened to me. But yeah, see when you have like a picture with like any animal, oh my god, you go weak at the knees. You're like, oh, that's a cute picture, you know. But Yeah, just even like you could put like a few funny pictures to show your personality. If you're into sports, maybe show a picture of you, like if you're hiking or you know, whatever you do. But yeah, I would always say just get someone else to someone else to look at it and say, what do you think of this? Yeah, and kind of as well. I think when you look at other like, so say like some guys that I've got on that are online, I'll look at theirs and just see what other people have put for their bio as well, and just you can take snippets of that. But yeah, I've met so many interesting people. I mean, I do a lot of promotional work as well. In promotions, you can give out samples on the street, or you work at events. And I remember I kind of had a one night stand with a guy, and I just wasn't feeling it. So he was snoring next to me, and I creeped out. This isn't in the book. So I creeped out, left a wee note because I thought, I don't want to just do a runner. So I left a note and say, lovely to meet you, thanks for good night, and then left. And I went straight to a promotional job, and we were giving out porridge oats, right? So there was a stand at the top of Buchanan Street next to the Royal Concert Hall, and our job was to give out porridge oats with all these like exotic toppings. Like, so we're trying out a new thing. I was event manager, so you know I had to be totally on it, and the client was there. And the queues were huge, all the way down Buchanan Street. People, because everyone loves a freebie. Next thing is like I look up, and the guy that I just walked out of was in the queue, and I literally ducked. Like my instant reaction was to duck under like where the kind of screen was of the van. I ducked under, and the client's there, right? And it's so unprofessional. He's like, "You're right," and I was like, "Oh my God, I've got cramp." I've really like I literally pretend I got cramp. And then he's like, "Oh, just go for a walk. You know, we can handle this." And I remember saying to one of the girls, like, "That's the guy I slept with last night. Like that's the guy." I was like, "He can't see me." So I remember like, and the queue was so long and it was taking forever. So I had to, it was honestly a good like 20 minutes until he was served. I was like, the guy with the red cap. And as soon as like he was gone, that was me back. But I've been in so many stupid situations. Promotions is a great way to meet people as well. And you're always working at events. You can get this is when you get married guys chatting you up, and you're just like, oh my God, is there a good person out there?
Can you tell right away?
Oh yeah, well, so you obviously always look for the ring, but there's people out there that don't wear a ring, that they just choose not to when they're married. You can see a dent. Some are just confident and just say, you know, I'm away from home just now, you know, different postcodes, all that.
Wow.
They're so cocky, so overconfident. But you get that a lot when you're in events, because at events you're dressed up in a nice dress, heels, your hair's done, makeup. That's the way you're supposed to look. So you know, if someone's had a few too many drinks, so yes, that's when I'm like, oh, please be good people out there. So
that's the thing. I suppose even when you're going from the dating situations and the work situations, and you still have that, you must then think, fucking hell, this is just destiny. This is a nightmare.
I know. Me and my friends used to. So I've worked at Butlins before, right? So I studied musical theatre at uni, and my first job out of uni was Butlins. And
surely there's a book about Butlins.
oh my God, the stories. And I remember, so Ali that was on the pod before, so it was me and her, and we remember we went to the audition for a laugh, right? We saw it in this, there was a newspaper called The Stage, and that's where all the job adverts were for musical theatre. And there was never anything in Scotland. It was all down in London. We couldn't afford to go down there. So we saw an audition for Butlins, like, come on, we'll go for a laugh, because good audition experience. And we got picked, and we're like, well, we just do it for a laugh. So we turned up, and we thought we're going to be redcoats. That sounds quite cool, you know, being a redcoat. You know, there's been famous people that are redcoats. And we turn up, and they're like, you're going to be animators. We're like, what is that? We didn't even know what an animator was. Like, we just thought it was like cartoons. Like, what is that? And then you're gonna go to animation camp. So we turn up, and we were our job was to be Bob the Builder. And we were like, we can't tell a single person. We've got a degree, and we're dressing up as Bob the Builder, Fireman Sam. This is embarrassing. But we thought, like, we're here now, we need to do it. And we went to animation camp for 2 weeks to learn how to perform like a character. And it's one time in my life I thought, I don't want kids, because kids were kicking you, shoving you. And there's a YouTube video, I think it's like Disney World in Florida, and the Goofy basically attacks a kid. And in my head, I'm like, I understand that. Like, I know, like, you should never attack a kid, obviously, but in my head, I'm like, he's probably been tugged, punched all day, and he's lost his shit. And this is what happened in Butlins. So when we were in Bob the Builder, we had to be red coats, and you had to smile all the time. Like you get in serious trouble if you don't smile.
Right.
So if your jaw didn't hurt by the end of the night, you know that's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
And there was a shift called the graveyard shift. It was like 8 o'clock to 12. Nobody wanted to do it, but you get voted onto it.
Right.
Anytime someone requested a dance, like like Macarena or whatever Saturday night, you had to run on the stage and perform it.
Right.
And people constantly wind you up and constantly go up to DJ, oh, we'd love to do Saturday night again, the cha-cha slide, and we had to run. So me and Ali used to sit in the toilet and hide in the toilet for like 4 hours. We'd sit there and be like, we're not doing this. We're not going on stage. So yeah, I've been even in work situations, I've been in many disasters.
Can imagine in Butlins.
I got dragged off Hampden Stadium dressed as a paper army. So we used to do this thing where like you're dressed up in an outfit, we'd go and like hug all the hot guys because you're like, we can get away with it. And I remember we weren't supposed to be, the agency didn't get a license, and they were giving out like miniature paper armies to like spectators, and I was dressed as the big paper army, like waving to people.
Yeah.
Security came over, spoke to the staff saying, you know, you've not got a license, and they're like, all right, okay, we'll leave. I couldn't walk in my costume because it was supposed to be for someone 5'8" and I'm 5'5". So I had to walk very slowly because the shoes were too big.
Right.
So I was trying to slowly walk, and the guys were like, you're taking the utter piss. We told you to get the fuck out the stadium. And I'm like, and I can't, one thing you learn in animation camp, do not talk in your costume because it gives away, like, you don't want the kids to know you're not real. Obviously, they're going to be like, oh, it's like someone under there. Yeah. For the magic, you're not allowed to talk.
Yeah, nightmare.
And most of the time, you can't really hear when you do talk, it's quite muffled. So, like, I'm not saying anything. And then they basically grabbed me from either arm and dragged me off the stadium. My feet are dragging behind me, and I'm like, what is life? Like, what is going on?
Kids just watching a paper army.
I know. And the chanting started, so the football stadium were like that. Oh, save the something paper army. And they were chanting, and I'm like waving like, yes. Man. I've been in many situations.
That's brilliant. There's got to be a video of that somewhere. Surely there's got to be a video of that somewhere. Question that I always ask everybody when they come on is if they know anybody else that they think would have a good journey, or they know somebody that's doing really well, that would be good to come on and chat.
I would love for you to get a psychic on. I would love it because I don't believe it, right? I'm not into it, but I've been to some just out of entertainment factor, and some of the stuff they say, I'm like, oh, now you've got me kind of hooked a wee bit. But then I'm like, how is that possible? I've been to a few that have said stuff like, I've been to one that predicted I'd write a book, right? This was years ago, and I was like, oh, psychics are bullshit. Like, there's no way I'm writing a book. There's a lot of other stuff they've said. So there's a woman called Louise McConnell, I think that's her surname. If Glasgow Girls Club has got a Facebook group, and there's loads of girls that always write, someone recommend a psychic, and her name continuously comes up. So I'll write it down for you, but I think it's Louise McConnell, and she's amazing. When I went to see her, I was like, what? But still in my head, I'm like, this is not true. But part of me is like, how does she know this stuff? So I think that'd be an interesting one, because it's like, you know, where did they get that kind of talent from? Like, and obviously there's people that don't believe in them. So it's like, how do they overcome that? Have they done a reading that's like, you know, been so out there that's came true? So I think that'd be good. Also, Ronnie Charters, he's like an STV presenter for the sport. Okay. So I used to work with him at the Hydro. And he's gone on, he was studying journalism, sports journalism, and he went from just working in a bar to straight into a job for STV and presents the sports. I think he'd be fascinating to chat to, because it's like, what a journey. He always wanted to be a sports journalist, and now he's on TV all the time. I'm like, bloody hell, that's Ronnie on the TV.
From a pub, that's
I know,
dream journey. Crazy.
And then a friend of mine, Ata Yakub, he's an actor, model, presenter, podcaster, bit of everything. He's fascinating. So he'll have loads of stories, and he's all about, you know, he's Asian, and it's all about, you know, how difficult it's been, his journey into acting and things like that. So he'd be a great one to have on as well. I've got a list for you.
Yeah.
But those three really stand out for me because
Yeah.
I just think they'd be interesting conversations with them.
Three totally different ones as well.
Yeah.
Which is always good. The psychic one, I mean, I'm not a believer, I'll put that out there.
That's
but
what's even better. She
Yeah.
might be able to do your reading and blow your mind. Can you imagine?
It's not even a podcast, just a live reading. You just put it on YouTube.
All your secrets out there.
Absolutely live. God, can you imagine? Jane, it's been brilliant.
Thank you.
I don't say this lightly, but I did love the book. When I started reading it, I didn't know if I was going to like it. So I'm like, I don't know anything about this. But it was hilarious. Like, there was points in it where I was genuinely howling
Thank you.
reading it. And hopefully there's a second one coming out, and then hopefully a podcast soon as well. But it's been brilliant to talk to you.
Thank you. It's been great to be on.
Amazing.